All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back doing some coding on the Nexus mod app today. We're going to start working on data migration pretty soon. To be clear, when I say data migration, I mean migrating the data in our data model so that we don't have to keep wiping out the data model every time. So what we're going to do is we have a system where we can export data out of our data model. And I'm going to install a whole bunch of collections, export that data, and then take that export and we can import it into the MnemonicDB tests to do tests around data model conversion and that sort of thing. I'm going to be, so I got a question from one of my coworkers, Sewer56. I'm going to be handling part of that. As part of my tests here, I can take a look at that and see if that, what's going on there. And I just remembered actually I don't think it's going to matter in this case. The data model folder in my Cyberpunk directory is currently dirty. We have I have files in there that aren't from the base game, but it won't matter for what we're doing today. So I'll take a look at that. All right, so let's, first of all, one of the things I wanted to do is in our OAuth system, we now have the ability to size bits of data from the database, like completely delete them. That was part of some work we did last week. So what we're going to do first of all is upgrade MnemonicDB. And we're going to excise, when we log out, we're going to excise the JWT token. It probably wouldn't cause a problem. I just don't want to create a test case that includes my login credentials as part of the, not my credentials, but the OAuth token. It's just one of those things that maybe could be a little of a problem. So let's see here. We have a point where we delete that. So let's see here. I think that's where we log in, the login manager for this. Yeah, the login manager. And then there's a part where we delete it. So what we want to do here is instead of deleting this, we're going to do, we're going to take all these IDs, excise, and we're just going to excise the IDs that we have here. In fact, we don't even need this in a for loop because we can excise multiple things at once. So JWT token.all from the current database. We got to select the entity IDs. So because MnemonicDB is a temporal database, it keeps old versions of data through time. So without this, whenever you logged out, it would just say, okay, that token is no longer valid, but it would still be there in the database. And so we'll check and make sure that this actually runs correctly. And then get around to installing some collections. We got the same attribute in two places. Do we want the abstractions one here? That's going to be fantastic. We're just going to have to go through all these files and resolve the conflicting names. We're only running on Twitch today. I had a problem connecting with the Nexus YouTube account for some reason, but we'll get that sorted out. should learn my keystrokes better. Shortcuts. All right, good. Let's load it up. I wonder if the problem with the antivirus and this path, because it's been taking longer to actually start the app these days. But it's not the app itself. It's like the actual starting of the, like even it starting to start. If that makes sense. Okay, so we'll log in. I did something different today as well. I have increased the resolution of the zoom on the main screen here so we can see what's going on in the app and everything. I think that will work a little better than what we had in the past. So if we sign out here and then we restart the app, we should see that we are still again signed out. And we are, cool. Okay, so if we do view, we have our library here. We have nothing installed currently. So let's go ahead and pull in a collection. Now we heard reports that some of these weren't working correctly. That's what Sewer was saying. So we'll take a look at that first of all. So we're going to install a simple collection, and it's called Immersive. Here we go. This installs pretty quickly. So it's adding the collection and installed that fast, which is awesome. So preview changes. So the question is, I think the error was that if we hit apply, that applies instantly for us. If we create a new, so I'm not able to replicate this. So now we're back in a second loadout that doesn't have any mods in it. And if I apply that, we're back to normal. We go back here, refresh this, we now have changed. It appears to be working, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we're gonna install several collections here. So we have this immersive one. Let's see. We're going to do Welcome to Night City, because we tested that a bunch yesterday and got that working. I also added changes last night that support bundled mods, which is really cool. So all the mods are being added in. This one has about 229 mods. You are right, I am not logged in. Which, how did all these download? Did they download? That's weird. Oh, yeah, I do have an API key in the environment variable. That's what it is. Okay, so that's one faux mod. Is this taking this long to analyze the next faux mod? Or is it hidden? Release mode, so I'm not sure if... Oh, it installed it in the wrong collection. That's interesting too. I mean, that's not a problem for today. It is a known problem that, like, I didn't apply this one, so it's not activated. Which I would have expected. Oh, because this isn't applied either. So that's another problem with the UI that we're going to have to figure out is nothing's applied, so where does the collection go? We'll probably end up having a dialogue or something like that. But just for now, let's hit apply here. Cool. So now we're here. Let's reinstall this collection again. It should be pretty fast this time because everything is already downloaded. So we're gonna add it. Huh. Okay, that's something we'll have to definitely take a look at. I don't know why it's re-downloading most of these. Must not be deduping them properly. There is code for that though, so we can look at that in a second. I mean, in reality, this is fine too because this is just testing and the like. And installed the second one here too. Interesting. Even though this is the one that's applied. That might be that error. Okay. I realize I don't care about that. And we are going to keep installing some collections. But before we do, let's actually go and enable console logging so that we can see what's going on if and when it fails. Okay, so now we're back here. We have our collections. Oh, it's interesting. It's actually quite a bit slower with logging enabled. At least it feels slower. It might not be. Okay, let us look at another collection. So that's most downloaded. So that one's 14 gig, 16 gig, 7 gig. Really don't want huge ones, but let's do this perfect city collection. This one has 282 mods, so we'll see when this counter here gets to about 282. We will see it start installing. And obviously we are going to improve this experience for the user. We're still working on the UI for that. Why is the apply button not disappearing when we apply? I'll take a look at that. It's a good question. It could be that bug that Sewer mentioned, that it just... Sorry, I bumped my mic there. One large bond left on this. I assume we can test this as well while we're going. So if we hit apply here, if we hit apply to this, a little slow. No, the apply went away in that case. So Perfect City is currently installing. Looks like that worked. Health check went away because one of the prerequisites we needed for the other one was gone. So here we see that we have about 63 gigabytes of data, or 6 gigabytes of data to process. 2,600 files to. So if we apply this here, does this? Yeah, that didn't. Oh, we do get a stack trace here though. What's this say for this error? The process cannot access damage scaling settings.json because it is used by another process. If I do that again, does it work? Yep. What do you want to bet that? Well, no, it doesn't. It's the same file. So this is in create file. Might be an ordering thing with how that applies. And that worked. So it's like eventually it does work. I think the first error with the file being used was likely a problem with the antivirus software, which will be a bear to fix if we look into doing that. I will need to do something with it. Okay, so that was Perfect City. Let's install a few more here. Let's find one with a lot of mods. Can we do mod count? We can't sort collections by mod count, can we? I don't know that we can. We can do by... highest rated, I guess, but that doesn't really have how many downloads they have. Most endorsed. We'll do that. So Welcome to Night City was one. We'll do the high-res graphics pack performance. This one I know works pretty well. Yeah, I may not switch to loadout B because of that error. The idea here is just to get a lot of files and a good data set size to work with. Probably the last mod. Now it should be installing. Yeah. So we have this high-res graphics pack. Mostly just an AI upscale of things. I think these are all archives, which is kind of an interesting thing with Cyberpunk. Most of the files are in archives, so it's not like we're going to get a ton of files to process. So now we're only added at 62 files, but 7 gigabytes. And that worked. Now, for example, if we want to go back to A, does this work? Deletes a bunch of files from disk. Yep. If we go back to preview files here, we see that we have 13 gigabytes of data to process apparently. Okay, let's get another one in here. I don't think this will cause problems, so we're going to install the collection of sexy and immersive mods. Hopefully we don't get blasted with a bunch of faux mods that will get us in trouble with Twitch. This one has 864 mods though, so we got some... Okay, There's one error. Oh. Get or add file on line 154 as a not implemented. Try to get the first. Oh, interesting. It's like, so the mod will need to update this. I think Sewer might be working on some of this code, so it might be better in that version. But we already have the mod. That's interesting. We have the mod information. Mod file metadata, find by UID. Mod files. We get the mod files, and then we're not seeing this file. I want to try this again in debug mode. It might be that we're not showing the archive files, which is a bug that we have seen before. I don't think by default the UI invalid UTF sequence. Ah, isn't that the one that we Yeah. That's the one that someone else hit. This is in this comparison. We have special code. UTF-8. Well, that code's in MnemonicsDB. Interesting. That's the same code problem that we found in a different spot. How do I break on that exception? What's the exception again? It was okay, we'll start it again. Because if I can dive into that place, I can see what the data format is there. So for performance reasons, so .NET doesn't include a UTF-8 decoder. Well, I mean it does, but it doesn't include a span-based UTF-8 decoder. What I actually want in this part of the code in MnemonicsDB is the ability to compare two strings in a case-insensitive manner that is, respects UTF-8 encoding. So I wrote this class that uses spans to do the decoding and gets individual code points and then does the case-sensitive compare. So basically we're using .NET's 2 upper 2 lower, but all based on spans and stack-based stuff instead of off of strings. So we don't have allocation in the middle of our sorting algorithms. So if we go here, our two code, we don't have code points yet, but we have 2 bytes of 137. So 2 sequences that are 137 bytes long. This is the AEVT index, so okay. Let's see what this is. String dot create, I forget the I forget how to turn a string into a pointer into a string. Enter to string at Marshall. This one handles that filter. Use string. I think it's a UTF-8 variant here. But actually, let's go here. When we throw this sequence, where are we at here? First byte is 133. And we are at position 0. Oh wow, so it's actually just the first part of it. I think we can do encoding.utf8.getString from a... Oh, right, this. Like, this will work here. So our pointer len. Oh, fascinating. This is a bug in MnemonicDB. Because this is the value tag here is UTF-8 case insensitive. We have a 4-byte prefix on this, which does make sense because when we write our strings sometimes in MnemonicDB, we write them with a length prefix, which I believe is 4 bytes. Let's look at that. If we do like compare ASCII here, yeah, we're getting the size of the AVAL plus the size of the uint because there is a size on the strings. That just makes... The reason we have that is because... So we don't technically need a prefix in the case of RocksDB because the keys themselves have a fixed size. So we could just have our key prefix and then just any data after it. But that means other cases where we write these values out to like a block of memory, we don't have that sizing to take advantage of. And so just to make the code simpler, we do include the string length. So it really is that this UTF insensitive compare is not properly offsetting. The nice thing is this bug is not a bug with the data itself. The data's fine. It's the comparison that's broken. So we should fix that. Thinking of the best, I guess we fix it and do a release, that whole release cycle, because that's about all we can do at this point with this. So let's go over to MnemonicDB. Make sure we got up to date. And then value comparer. So this value comparer here, what it does is, as part of the, so datums as they're written to the database have a key prefix, which is the entity, the attribute, the value type, and the transaction ID, and if it's an assertion or not, and all that's packed into two 64-bit longs. The rest is the value. So we want another function here, compare UTF-8 insensitive. Create this method. And the guts of it will still be this. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the UTF, add the ints on there, and then recalculate the new length, and then do the comparison here instead. Okay, the other thing we can do here is I would like to have a test of this. So in our test, we have a thing that, I think this error only occurs when we start the data store. because there's some places where RocksDB will just write datums out and assume they're not sorted or something like that, or sort them in one specific way, and then later on it will try to merge them in. And I'm wondering if our sorting, our in-memory sort should also catch this. So let's go to our storage tests and do a store test. Let's add another one of these. I want to add another attribute. Are any of these case insensitive? We had one that wasn't case sensitive. Let's look at our attributes in our test model and see if absolute path is case insensitive. No, it's UTF-8 in this case. Okay, relative path attribute is case insensitive. And is that indexed? Because that should trigger this bug. If it was usages of this. Yeah, it is indexed. Okay. So if we do archive file, if we just create a whole bunch of files with a path, then we can test the sorting of these paths. Case insensitive UTF-8 doesn't crash the parent. So what we want to do is create a whole bunch of files. What was blowing up before was the AEVT index, which would be when we have that would collide when we had multiple attributes on the same. Well, it should frankly just crash anytime we have a whole bunch of values that are mostly the same name. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of datums. Kind of like this. And we're just going to insert a whole bunch of values that are almost exactly the same. Let's see if we can get this to fail. Here we go. RID 1, ID 2. So we're just going to insert the same data over and over again. 2, 3. And then we are going to write that out. And this should not crash. Well, it should, because we haven't fixed the we hadn't fixed the bug in this code yet. So let's compile this. Oh, I didn't put fact on this. There we go. wonder how that got through testing. We were missing, one of the tests was missing some definitions on it. Case insensitive. Let's add these to the session and run it. I would expect to see this crash, and it doesn't, of course. I mean, that's definitely the issue. But look at that. Let's look at that value comparer and see if we ever actually hit this code. Well, it would only error out, right? If the value we're getting is I mean, we're getting the correct, I mean, we're getting values that are prefixed here. But if we do that again, that's encoding.utf8 that gets string, we'll see that this is still encoded. A val, a length. Yeah, it's still encoded. It's just for whatever reason, the encoding prefix is considered a valid UTF-8 code. And that's going to be really hard to get this to break, I think. So in order for this to break, the first character, like the length, would have to be, this is weird. So the first byte either has to be not 28, not 224, not 240, and not 248. Oh gosh. Well, it's and, right? If the first byte so we would need the length of the string I know this is what the error is. I'm not sure how to replicate this error. It can be done. It's just really weird. Okay, so instead we're just going to fix the error. Like that. I'm sure that fixes it. So let's go to our changelog. It's good to know that it's not a data corruption issue. It's just an issue with how we are comparing values in certain situations. It may not result in we may need to do re-downloads. I think the data is not corrupted, but the sort is going to be different, and that could just break, because before, if the prefixes were different, it would have sorted the prefixes in a strange way. This is a weird one. Okay. So let's get our changelog. Fixed a bug with case insensitive string comparison. This would cause a invalid UTF-8 we'll just do that. Okay. Insensitive? Is that not how you spell insensitive? What does it say? Okay. All right. We will just cowboy commit this in. Fix UTF-8 invalid. that. We'll release a new version. Git tag v0.9.89. Git push origin v0.9.89. Cool. Turn off my Steam notifications. Not that it really matters that people see that, but okay, so we'll wait for 8.9 to percolate through. In the meantime, we will write a export routine for the data model. So we have verbs. This is import, export. So our CLI system is something I'm actually pretty happy with. It's all static method based, and the methods, you declare in the method what you want your what you need as part of the dependency injection, and the system will just hand that to you the right way. So add, import, out, import, export verbs. Routines for exporting the data model. For public, okay, public static task. We want this to be export. So we're going to export. We have a renderer that allows us to view things, and we have these options. This option is the output file. The contents will be compressed with deflate. We get pretty good compression with this, and I'm really not concerned about compression too much. We should probably use Z standard or something, but I just don't want to pull that library in here. Okay, so what we also need is the connection, and this is injected. So you have two prefixes that you can put onto these parameters. It's either a option or it's injected. Option is something the user is going to provide, like the output path, and injected is something that comes from dependency injection. So now what we can do is pretty much just open, not like that though. Our output we want to be an absolute path. Create. So we're going to create the output path, wait using deflate, var deflate stream. So we're going to create a deflate stream that wraps that stream. And then we're just going to export it. It's an export async. Oh no, it's the datum store export async. Cool. And then we return. And let's await renderer.render. We're going to render exporting data model to file, and this pulled in Apollonia's rendering, which we don't want. I'm mostly killing time here while we wait for the mnemonic DB package to get pulled in and processed. Oh, it's render async. Okay, and then down here we'll do the same thing. Let's give it the full name. So we're giving, I'll just do that. Okay, cool. And then we got to register it here. So services.add verb. And we have this weird invocation thing here, but it essentially uses reflection to figure out what we're exporting to the system, to the dependency injection system. So this now has and this method can be private. So another thing I like about this system is we don't actually have to have public CLI methods either. You just do what we just did, create the definition, and then we do add import export verbs. So let's see now if MnemonicDB has updated. Looks like just about. Abstractions has come through. Wait, yeah, 8.9. We're just waiting for the other ones. Just to make sure here. Last action run. It did. Cool. This is making sure it actually did publish. It just takes a while for the packages to show up in NuGet sometimes. Okay, while we're waiting on that though, let's create a branch. Call it small fixes and import export. So what I plan to do for the migration code is build some test suites around how we can test it. One of the problems with MnemonicDB right now, not a problem, but problem for migration, is that we're trying to make it so that it's has a schema. So one of the first things I'll probably do in the test suite is wrap some dynamic routines around that, so we can test the data without really caring what the schema is, and we'll be able to do things like change the type of an attribute from one type to another, and we should be able to test that. There we go. It's all updated. Upgrade everything to the database version, and we'll run it. I think it's probably going to crash, maybe with a different error, because the sorts are all wrong, and RocksDB doesn't like it when you had one sort and then you go to a different one.
I didn't get a chance to read your diary last night, but I'll read it tonight, and then I'll call you in the morning, and maybe we could discuss any questions I might have over breakfast.
That sounds fine.
Alrighty. Well, that worked. Oh, that's cool. There might be small bugs here. I don't know. Kind of surprised that worked.
Taking clues.
Something like that.
Okay. Cool.
How much of today was just doing your job?
None of it.
Pick some of the files here. Cool. All right, well, let's get back to installing that one. What was the collection? Oh yeah, this sexy immersive one was the one we hit. And I forget what the error was that we hit on that. We'll try it again though. It wasn't. Oh, that's right. That was. It's the mod page bug was the one. So we would expect to see this fail again with that, unless we've gotten. I think this is another thing too. I don't know exactly what happens when this happens. The invalid range, the download will be reset. It seems to hang on this. The download will be reset. Except range is false. Feels like this should... See, we don't see any activity. Let's try this one more time. I don't know if these mods shouldn't be getting doubled up, but they are. We have like immersive. See, immersive rippers. Is this getting... Yeah, we have multiple versions of the same file. So when we're downloading the collection, we're not deduping the files properly. So that's another thing we'll look into right now. Kind of using this process of installing a bunch of collections to drive the testing of the app as well. So install collection job. Ensure downloaded. Confirm Nexus file download is what we're looking for. So we get the unique ID. Find mod files by UID. So we have the mod ID, but this is find by UID. Yeah, I think this is wrong. I don't think this code's right. UID for file. So we're getting the UID of the file itself. And the UID is the game ID and the file ID. We are finding those that match the specific UID. And then we are looking for I don't think this matters at all. I mean, it's okay to have that as a check. So this library files looks at all of the nice. Yeah, Vortex won't resolve them right either. I'm pretty sure it is in this code here. So library files, so what we're looking at is the Nexus mods file metadata. Library files. Well, first of all, let's make sure that when we are downloading these files that we are linking them up to the Nexus information. So if it doesn't have a value, we are going to create a file. We're going to create a download job. And then we create a library file and we wait for that to get added. And this is adding the correct metadata because this is going to library service. And we remove items, add download. All right, I'm losing what I'm looking at here. So it adds a download of type iDownload job. And then I think something tells it to add metadata. So we create this, and we do this. And when this runs, we do download job.job.add metadata because the iDownload job has a metadata attribute. I mean, this really has to be working. There's not too much rhyme or reason to why it wouldn't work. Now, one thing here is that we're using a common data. We are dereferencing the database, which is good. So if the files are, multiple files are downloading, we will try to use the latest file, or the latest version of the database, and we'll see new files as they come in, which is good. It's interesting. We're trying to get this as a library file. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to debug this and see what the data looks like when we... Let's go back to that that one immersive collection that we installed way back when today. And because that doesn't have very many mods in it, and we'll be able to see what's getting hit. So this is most endorsed. Isolated. I think that's what we're looking for. So we'll add this collection, and we should see it hit. Yes, we do. Okay, so our mod is immersive driving and walking. The source is mod ID 5293. And our UID, game ID is 3333, which is correct. File ID is 60929. Which is correct. So let's do Nexus mods file metadata find by UID db UID. So it found one. So we found one file with that UID. So if we get the first one, and mod page.uid.modid is 5293, And the mod ID we're looking for is mod.source.modID is 5293. So is this really just a comparison issue between... Oh, well, it found one. Okay. No, I think it actually is finding it. It just doesn't have any library files. My wife had a question for me there. So if we do this and then we do .library files to array, what do we have? It does have one library file. What the heck? It has a value. But okay, so we are getting... Oh, this is just wrong. What? What was the author of this smoking is the question. And I should ask myself that because I in fact wrote this. Because what we're saying is get it as a library file. If you can't get it as a library file, it's basically the case where it all works. We are restarting the download, which is completely wrong. So now, we should be able to re-download that one collection and see it just work. All right. If we go back to the large collection we were working on earlier, and add this, it'll download, but it should pick up where it was downloading before. Yeah, I mean, it did a little more, but all right, let's debug this. Let's see where this dies. So this, I mean, this is good stuff to get into the next release anyway. Okay. So we are getting library files now. Oh, that's right. We got this not implemented thing, which is part of the pull request. That. So we were looking at this before. We're going to try to see if we could figure out So in this case, we are making the request to mod files async, but I don't think we are getting the archived files. File ID we're looking for is 43869, and actually let's go back up to the mod page is the raccoon dumpster. Okay. So there are currently 3 files here. So, version 85 is what we need of this mod. And the current version is 8502. So, yeah, and there's 99 files archived for this. So, when we get our mod info, I think there's a way to... Take a look. Just a second. So what we can do here is look at the documentation in the GraphQL, and we're currently executing mod files. I know that Sewer has been working on this, but I think we can make this as a simpler change here. Fields, category ID, description, manager, mod ID, is there a way to get this to, or can we not even just view archive mods with this method? Well, we can give this a test. So let's do mod files, and the mod ID is 5810, and the what's the other thing? The game ID is 3333. And then what we want is nodes. Oh, it's not nodes, it's just name, version. Let's say Night City Reborn. Did I get the wrong 5802? No. 02. There we go. Interesting, it does show up here. This is the version we want. File ID, so let's look at our mod file fragment. We do file ID, version, size in bytes, name, mod ID, version, size in bytes, date, UID. So it's there. That's interesting. So this if not, I'm gonna do this and then do I'm gonna stop here. So I think some of the, oh yeah, some of the values here are being optimized away. So let's go ahead and put this in debug mode so that we can better debug this. when we put code like C# code into release mode, they do stuff like locals clearing and other things where they'll say, hey, you're not going to use this variable again, so we'll wipe out the value. That way the garbage collector doesn't keep that hanging around for a while, which is cool stuff, but it does make debugging a little more difficult at times. Let's not delay it again. It's like sometimes when we recompile, it just takes a while for the system to want to start the app again for some reason. Okay, so now that we're in here, we do have Perfect City. Oh, that's not the one. It's this one here that we're doing. So, if we download this collection yet again, and obviously we're not re-downloading it every time, we're just reusing the old downloads. Okay. So the files we get 11 files here. It's a different one though. So what we're looking for is 43.8. Actually, let's just focus on the one that we've been looking at. Oh, this will probably just die here. We're looking for file ID 43869. Well, obviously it doesn't have it. But this is for mod. Let's see, the mod ID here. The mod. No, it's actually the same. Oh, weird. So our mod page is this raccoon dumpster mod. And we're getting 11 files. Mod version all the way up to 2. It's like we're only getting a few of these results though for some reason. Like here, just to confirm, the mod page error oh, that was the first one we're looking at here. So no, this is right. So the mod page we're looking at is, just to confirm, the mod ID is 8257. Okay, so let's go and look at that specific mod. Cyberpunk mod 8257. How much of this I can actually show. But in fact, there are 11 files here. We are looking for file version 43869. So are any of these 48? Oh, and this ID is whack. File ID 48369. There is not. So it looks like there may not be a way to query archived files, except by querying the file data itself. Because I assume that if we go back here and we do file, like mod file, so this mod files gets a list of mods by UID. Returns a mod file. We want something that actually can just query a mod file, which I assume would be like mod files. Unless it's this. A mod file UID. So the mod file UID that we are looking for is I'm not sure how to get that. So I assume what's going on here is that if the file is archived, it doesn't show up in any of the listings of the mod. Unless maybe we do category, if there's is there a option for category for the mod file? Just mod ID, game ID. Okay. So this does allow us to get bulk files, which is good. So the mod file UID for file is what we want. Okay. So var UID equals UID for file dot from, I guess, from ulong. What is this? It's a combination of file ID and game ID. Okay. And how are those stored? They're stored packed together. Okay. So new UID for file. It's a composite key of file ID and game ID from 3333. So what we're looking for in this case is this 14 whatever. So based on that, IDs, it is IDs, right? UIDs. UIDs. And then this returns a type of mod file page which has nodes. And we want to select these files from nodes. And that works. The file ID that we wanted was 43869. Is that right? Yeah. And this is version 1001. So this is just, can we do like category here to see if it's archived? Yeah, it's archived. Okay, so that's really the problem here, is we can't query, we don't get the files themselves when we query that way. So let me ping my coworker here real quick. And see if he fixed this in the main code. I kind of doubt it, but it might be the case. Actually, for now, though, what we can do is just implement a new queries thing here for the specific case. Well, we should just review his code and see if it's implemented. Let me. More fixes for import, export, and stuff. Okay, let's look at this PR. So, GitHub, where's GitHub? It's going up on the other screen, so it's hard for me to get to. View pull requests. Author. Where? Did that even get merged? Oh, there we go. Migrate everything. Okay, cool. So let's look at the GraphQL code and see if there was modifications. Mod files by UID. Oh, sure enough, they did do work on this. Fantastic. Whoa, this is new. This is like a new... Oh no, this is the review thing. Pretty cool though. Okay, so yeah, we do have mod file fragment files by UID. Excellent. Can we do find usage? No, we can't. So let's look at what that code has in the Nexus mods library. It looks like this hasn't changed. Oh, is this Stop. There we go. Let's close this down. Nexus mods library. This doesn't look like the code from here. Oh, why not on main? Oh, I didn't check out that PR. Duh. My brain. Git. Okay, so now let's look at the Nexus mods library. And what we see here is we have the mod page, and what we're doing is git find by... Okay, same sort of thing. We try to find it. Mod files by UID. Okay, I mean, we're not doing bulk imports anymore. Which is maybe a problem. So what I liked before is we would grab all of the files for the mod together. And we don't necessarily do that anymore. which means we'll do more requests. There's probably ways around this.
It would certainly be more convenient if we could verbally instruct the computer and then listen to its output. Well, the technology is rapidly being developed that will enable us to do these things.
The other question in our PR is why this doesn't, why we're calling this at all. Let's try that one more time. We can also export what we have right now and use that to start testing, building our test system for mnemonic DB. But I am interested in why this is not. It should be pre-populating.
As we discuss in a later segment, the computer knows exactly what it wants to say.
So we're here because we don't have the information for the file we're looking for. Mod files. Oh, this is buried down in here. Create download job. So when we do create or add file, so we pull a collections. So collections for game. Let's see here. We have in our collections we have our GraphQL code. Actually, it's in the networking Nexus Web API GraphQL collection revision info. Are we not pulling? No, we are pulling the full mod file fragment. Are we not unifying it? Well, we are here, but are we not inserting that when we get our collection? We have this, what is that in? Nexus API client. We have this big rectifier function that goes through and combines the different, inserts all the metadata about the collection into the database. And I'm wondering why that's not being done here. Here we go. So it's this GraphQL resolver. And then for each file, we are saying file info resolve. And what's the guts of this look like? Mod page ID, name, version uploaded at. So we're not inserting, oh, we are inserting the UID here. For some reason, it's finding a need to requery the information. So this is get or add file. And this get or add file, what it's going to do is find Nexus Mod's file metadata by a UID. Is it because here in this code, we are not, yeah, we're kind of off in the weeds on this now. No, from V2 API. When we do get or add file and we look this up, oh, the mod page ID I actually don't know. Okay, we're off in the weeds too much for this now. Let's try something different. Okay. We do have a fair amount of data, so let's go ahead and write an export of this data. We're going to export the data model to data model 2.z. And we're going to call this export data model. So this will include all of the... Does that actually work? Nope. Because it's called export something else. Export. Let's rename this to export data model. So this will give us a zipped file that we can pull into the mnemonic-DB tests, which we will do in just a second here. So okay, hold on, I'm going to check that folder and see if it's right there. Yep, seems to work fine. So we can go back to mnemonic-DB and let's call that work in progress for now. Go ahead and push this with some various fixes. Go back to main. No, we're going to go back to mnemonic-DB. Now we're going to want to have some tests for this, and we can put them in our, I guess, our normal test environment. Our test project here. Yep. Let's call this migration tests. Don't know how much bigger this will get, these tests, so let's keep adding stuff in. Alright, so what we're going to do is add resources, and we're going to pull in this data model 2 zip file and rename it to data model, and what we're going to do is just copy this if new action. We're going to copy if newer. And this is a mnemonic-DB test. I don't know if the mnemonic-DB test has a bunch of startup. It does. It does not. It just gives us a database connection with a few analyzers and the like. I don't know that we actually want that in this case. I think we want to instead we want to create our own connection and data store and stuff with this. So let's see. Backend. So the question is, do we want to do this for both backends? Likely. So we'll call this a migration test, and it will take a T backend, and the T backend has to be a I backend. I store backend, and we're going to want a function that takes a, let's see here, backend. Takes possibly a settings. And returns a T backend. T4. So we'll call that constructor function. So var we need a temporary file manager. But how do we do this in our normal tests? Storage tests, a backend test. We can just copy the data from here. I think the storage tests give us, they do a little bit too much for us. There we go. So we're gonna do this then. Import the missing paths and the like. We don't want to actually have a default constructor here. We do want this function. Call it the backend function like before. This is a migration test of T backend is what we want as the type there. Create a field called logger. All right, so this should be the basic guts of our test. And then from here, this is complaining that method must have a return type because we have changed the name. Cool. Load backup. So what we're going to do is have a function that we'll give it a name. We're just going to assume this is in the resource path. So var path full path equals file system. So it will be the entry directory we're going to combine resources onto this. Dot combine the backup name. Cool. If not, file exists. Okay. Now we should be able to write a test here, like backed and load data. And this is just going to load datum store.z. Create a new test session. So we'll see if this works. Oh, required arg. Oh yeah, because we're going to have to then create 2 subclasses for this. One for the rename this to backend tests. And then what we'll do is we have 2 instances of this abstract class. One will be in memory migration tests, and this will inherit from a migration test. We will pass the backend from the in-memory backend, and then we'll give it a way to create this iService provider. Provider will pass the provider on, and then our function is nothing we care about and new backend. Cool. That's weird looking. We're going to do this. That's about all we need from there. Then add, so this migration test class needs to be abstract. And then backend test add rocks db migration tests. So this we'll kind of have 2 instances of this, so it'll rerun all of our tests for 2 separate backends. And this is helpful sometimes because, oh, that's not the one I wanted, because sometimes a given problem will only exist in a specific backend. Convert that to a primary constructor, delete the unneeded lines here, and we're good to go. Now in our migration tests here, we have a error. Oh, because we need to pass the datum store settings to that method. And then if we run these tests, okay. So we couldn't find datum store. Where is it actually storing this file? So it is in resources. MongoDB test. So we're entering at this point, and it should be under resources and then data model. Oh, wrong name. Not datum store, data model. Doesn't want to actually load the data, but it shows that it... Okay, good. So then we should be able to do... actually load the data. So connection dot... import async. And this takes a stream. Okay, so we'll open the file using var stream. Just read, right? Read. Typed this morning for some reason. Song's a banger though. Crank this up a bit. Okay, so that should allow us to import it into invalid file format. Really? Oh, because it's compressed. Or inflate stream. not a GSIP. Deflate stream. Decompress mode. Cool. Oh, and we got to read from the inflate stream. The operation is not supported on get position. Oh, really? You're kidding me? I would have thought you could get the position on an inflate stream. Huh. Guess not. Can you get the length of it? I bet you can't get the length either, can you? Let's see. Yeah, you can't get the length or the position. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We can just treat this as a stream of things. Like this will throw an end of stream exception. So we can just do while true, and then try, and then we'll catch an end of stream exception here. Yeah, so we hit the end of the stream, we'll just do nothing, and that'll be it. Cool. So in this case, we imported 600,000 datums. How long did that take, just out of curiosity? Like 1 second. I would actually like to put a stopwatch around that. We should do that. Start new. So we will have imported it in that amount of time. Imported 600,000 datums in 0.8 seconds. Cool. And if we run the RocksDB, imported 600,000 in 4.3 seconds. It's actually funny that RocksDB is faster because it's writing to the disk and other stuff like that. Okay, cool. So when we create this datum store, though, initially, we will want to make sure that we do not start it with it starting in Bootstrap mode. That works. It actually finds all the datums, it loads it, good to go. So now that we've loaded the backup, we can do some queries around this. I'm just thinking about the best way to query some of this data. did start a doc about this that talks a bit about like the 3 types of updates that we want to do. One of them is just a simple like adding an index or removing, and maybe that's a good place to start with some of this. It'll be the connection that needs to migrate the data model, I think. Well, it's more of a rectification process between the two. One thing that would be interesting to start with in this specific setup is to show that we actually can load the datum store without any sort of knowledge of the attributes. So here we've loaded this backup that came from the Nexus mods app. It includes a bunch of data about mods and that sort of thing. But doesn't actually include the schema. We have no idea what the schema is. So attribute cache equals datum store attribute cache. So if we do like await verify attribute cache, so we can get like all IDs. I'd like to build this into a table, actually, is what I like to do. But just for fun, let's go here. We're going to return, and we're going to put a stop here, and if we do the RocksDB, we can actually look at the way the data is structured itself. I think this would be interesting to look at. So we have our attribute cache, and we have all attribute IDs. It's only 8 because so this would be a first problem that we would have, is that the attribute cache itself has not revalidated for some reason, because we don't have a DB yet. That would be the problem. So after we do this import, we do connection equals new connection, because we'll have to connect to this again. Datum store. We don't have any analyzers we want right now. We're going to create a new property of iConnection. And then once that's done, we can reset the cache. So data, it would be datum store.attributeCache.reset to the connection.db. Because when we reset the cache, we need a up-to-date version of the this should really be done in the import. Why are we not resetting the cache here? We're resetting the next ID cache, and then we're bootstrapping but this should really be like resetting. So after we set the current snapshot, we should really reset the caches to new DB. Oh, not next ID cache. It's so we're in the datum store. Attribute cache dot reset. New DB. There we go. So what happens if we do this instead? And we don't want to reset the attribute cache there. We're just going to run this again. Non-nullable. Oh, connection doesn't exist here. I know it doesn't exist yet, but I don't really want to care about that. Okay. Our attribute cache now has 173 attributes in it. That's much better. So here's all the attribute IDs. You can see all the ones from the Nexus Mods app. This is all the ones that are... So the way this works is that we have 173 of these, right? And they all have IDs. Well, they're in this slot. So like attribute ID, whatever this is. Unique ID is ID in the 0 slot here. And that's corresponds with cardinality many false. So we use bit fields and stuff to cache this very efficiently. Have all the symbols here. I'm tempted, at least just for testing purposes, to make a dynamic wrapper around this. We kind of already have that in some ways, because I think we have an object wrapper. We might want to start with that. Do an object wrapper around these datums for deserialization of the values, and then we might be able to test this sort of stuff better. Because what we want to start doing is the first case we want to handle is, let's say, original name here. I don't know if this is indexed right now. But archive metadata original name is 9. If we do is indexed, it's not indexed. So if one of the first tests we would want to perform is like adding and removing an index. So we want operations to say, hey, go add an index for this attribute, go remove an index for this attribute, and it all should kind of just work. And what we'll do eventually is in our attribute definitions, like in here in file, we could like turn is indexed to true or false. And then on the next boot up, the system would look at it and say, hey, it was indexed, now it's not. We need to delete all the entries for this that were indexed. And likewise, the other way around, adding an index would add the index to it. I think that'd be a good first place to start. My original thought was that we would do this as we would test this by adding, true, false here. But I think we'll want to start even lower on that. And in the datum store, add new abilities. So storage, we have import export, migration operations. And now we're going to have this partial class for data migration operations. So one of those would be public void add index, and then for attribute if attribute cache.is indexed. If it's already indexed, then we can just return. So the things that we'll need to do in a single batch for this. We can start by just actually adding the index, which is to add index data. We will want to find all datums for this attribute. Add them to the EAVT index. No, it's AVAT. So attribute value is the index, right? Okay. And we need to do this for both the historical and the current date index. Do the same for the historical index. So let's try this. We get a snapshot. We get a slice descriptor for the specific ID. And I assume this is going against the AEVT index. Yep, which is like the column index. That's what we want. That. Okay. And I assume this is the going against the AEVT current. So data's chunked. We're going to do a really large size. Const int chunk size. Again, 16,000 datums. Oh, it already exists? Oh yeah, it already exists in the other. Okay, so we're going to do chunk size for each var chunk. We can just inline this here. So, how did we do that in the import routine before? Get the index off the back end. And this is going into the index type of AVET current. So we have the index, and then we do index.add or put into the right batch. We got to create the right batch using var right batch. Okay, cool. So then this will add each one of them to the index. And we need to do the same in snapshot.datum's chunked of the slice, but we want slice with index type equal history is slice not a I forget what it takes to allow us to do this. Oh, it is like that. Okay, cool. So then we do slice and then chunk size again, and we write into the new index. So index current. Index current here. And the same thing. Cool. So once that's all done, we can commit the batch. Backend dot. Oh, it's the batch. Cool. I would like to, let's do int process datums equals 0. For a stopwatch, we'll do a stopwatch as well here. Because this is a pretty long-term logger added index to datums processed. Okay, so we'll just print out some debug information about what we actually accomplished here. Now back in our tests, let's see if we can get this working. We should be able to. Datum store.add index. And what was that attribute to index? Was this like original get attribute ID? So the symbol we're gonna index. Actually, not sure that we have any datums in that data set for that particular attribute. So let's pick one that we know we definitely have information for that is not indexed. So we have attribute cache, all attribute IDs. Redmod info file version, I don't think is indexed. So let's see if that's actually the case. Attributes by symbol. Should have grabbed the name of that there. Collection revision. Here we go. So let's copy this. This is our symbol. So we have the attribute cache. Var sim name equals symbol dot intern. So symbols in MnemonicsDB are like a singleton string. There will only ever be one instance of a symbol with a given namespace and name. And so there's really fast ways I like doing comparisons and going back and forth with those, which is helpful. So we have symbol name. Okay, so attribute cache.get attribute ID for sim name. That is 71. Attribute cache is indexed. Is this indexed? False. Okay. And then let's see, connection.d datums for, let's see. Not sure if this is going to work or not. Let's see here. Slice descriptor.create and attribute cache dot get attribute ID for sim name. That work? There's nothing in that. We don't have any red mods in that. Okay, what's one here that's definitely not indexed? Game metadata. Maybe one of the collections. Revision is optional. Is optional might be one. That would work here. What about the mod info ones? File metadata. We had a lot of files downloaded. Uploaded at. Uploaded at. I don't think that's indexed. It shouldn't be indexed. It's a pretty odd thing to index. So what we're going to do is var datums equals connection.db datums for slice descriptor create for get by ID or get attribute ID. So that'll get us the datums. Var is indexed. Okay. If we restart this, that should give us the information we need to know if this is going to be a good attribute to try to put the index on. So it is not indexed, and we have tons of datums of this. We have like 1,200. Excellent. And the value of this is, well, so this is what I was talking about before. We have this prefix struct that has the value tag, which in this case is int 64. Cool. So now we should have what we need to do connection.datum store add index. We'll do it here. We're going to add an index to the attribute ID that we're looking at here, which is this one. Var attr ID equals this. Okay, so if we run this test, it should insert the index. Thanks, Luca. Appreciate it. Well, it says it added the index, but it didn't process anything. That's not good. Let's see what this said here. Oh, because we didn't actually add any. Well, as we processed each data, we didn't actually increment the values or anything. That was part of the issue. Migration operations here. We called that process datums. Gotta make sure we increment our counter. Cool. 1,200 odd should be processed? Yeah, 97 processed in 2 milliseconds. Cool. So that's all it takes to add the index. Let's change the name of this test now because it's not a backup. Can add index to attribute. What I really like about the model for this is, the model that we have for this, because we leverage RocksDB's index sorting system, we provide our own sorting function to each index. We don't even have to touch this data at all. We can just pull it out of one index and shove it into another. It's really efficient that way. Probably a way we could make it even more efficient as well. But lifetimes, memory lifetimes and the like get a little interesting with in C# with that. Okay, so we were able to process that in both of these. Great. Excellent. Now, at that point, attribute cache dot is indexed of this should be true, which it won't be, because there's two things we need to do first. We have to clear the cache, but we also have to change the datum, that specific datum, in the current index. We have to change the indexed value, if it's indexed or not. This is kind of interesting too, because it's a question of like whose job is it to make that transaction. It might be on the connection where we would want to put that. And it would insert a transaction to change the value to true. That makes sense. And we probably don't want anyone else accessing the database while we're adding the index, because that would add really bad. It would just mess everything up. So I'm going to stop here on this for now. I'm going to get some lunch, but I'm going to think about how we want this to work. So we kind of have two things. We have the connection and we have the datum store. We can add an index easy enough. That's kind of why I did it here. But we got to think about the user API for this. They probably won't ever be like, hey, just add an index. What they'll do is they'll change their schema, and we'll have to make a change to reflect that. So maybe that's really where we want to put this, in the connection code. And the connection is to, when we get a schema, compare the old and new values of the schema. All right, we need to add an index, we need to remove an index, that sort of thing. And then have one transaction on startup that updates the metadata about the attribute. We're going to think about that. We're going to think about the best way to do it. This will increase the startup time of the database, which is fine. I would also like to maybe have that async or somewhat async. So I don't know. We'll think about it. I think that's good for today, though. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and stopping in and all that. We'll definitely stream tomorrow again, and hope to keep doing this. It's been a lot of fun. I'm gonna get some lunch, come back, and probably think about this one a bit more and some of the other bugs we dealt with today. So thanks a lot. See y'all later.